الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين. Dear sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum. We talked about the period in which faith has been attacked. One of the things that faith was responsible for in our lives was to add meaning, to enable us to have meaningful lives. For a very long time, faith was the only provider, supplier of meaning in life. But in the modern world, where faith has lost its place, not only as the only way of living, but also as the only way of adding meaning to your life. Before, there was only one way that you could have a meaningful life. It was the product that faith or religion had to offer. You either accepted it or not. But in the modern world, in the same way that for any product there are so many brands that offer it, meaning is also being offered by so many different schools of thought. Faith is now only one brand among all the brands that offer meaning in our lives. In the same way that maybe a few decades ago, if you went to a shop and wanted to buy jeans, there was only one model. You wouldn't ask, or you wouldn't be asked, which model do you want? Do you want the regular fit, the slim fit, the athletic fit? No, it would just say, how tall are you? What size do you want? You would get the jean and go home. But now, you go to the shop, there's so many different types of cut, so many different brands, so many different models. So you have so many options to choose from. Now this might seem like a good thing. Well, what's wrong with this? There are so many options. But the problem is that, and you may have experienced this, is sometimes you go and you want to buy something and there are so many models of it that you get confused and you end up going home without buying anything. You know, even for something as simple as cough drops, there are so many models of it that just confuses the person who wants to buy them. And this is why, for an issue as important as faith, the same is happening for a lot of people. There are so many different lifestyles, there are so many different ways of living, and we are confused between them. And you see that many people, they're fluctuating between these different schools of faith. One day they go on Facebook, they see a post that says, you only live once, live to the fullest. So they say, oh, that's a good product. That's a good way of living. So they live like that for a while. Then they go on Instagram and they see that it says, while you're partying, we hustle. We try to build our future. So, oh, I shouldn't be partying that much. Maybe I should work hard and then be able to buy that private jet later on. There are so many different things, different ways of living, of adding meaning to your life. So tonight we want to talk about this. First of all, what does meaning mean? When we say the meaning of life, what are we actually talking about? And how can we add meaning to our life? The question of meaning is asking about the final cause of anything. What do I mean by final cause? Aristotle said that when you look at anything, for example, a wooden table, there are 4 causes that you can count for that thing. For example, the wooden table, if we say, why does it exist? You could say because of the wood. Without the wood, it wouldn't exist. So that's one cause. Another thing that you could say is that it exists because someone made it. So one cause of it is the person who made it. But you can also answer in another way. It exists because of the form it has. The table exists because it has the form of a table. If it didn't have this form or shape, it would be a chair, it would be something else. So this is 3 causes. But he says there's a 4th cause, and that is the final cause, and that is why was this wood put together in this form by the person who made it. And that is the reason, and it says, well, they wanted to put their laptop or iPad on something and to work, to study, so they made it. So the question of meaning is the question of final cause, of why is it that something exists? Why is it that something is there? Now, this kind of questioning, asking why about things, is not as popular as it used to be. Because with the progress of science, what they said was that we can explain natural phenomena without needing to ask why questions. We can ask how questions. So instead of saying, for example, why fire behaves the way it does, we just explain how. So in a way, the question about final cause has been put aside. In order to understand meaning, we also have to bear something else in mind, and that is that why do we need meaning? We'll come back to final cause. As human beings, as aware human beings, we face things in our life that do not make sense to us. And in order to survive, in order to live with a peace of mind, we try to make sense of them. We try to find meaning for them. One of these things that do not make sense, for example, is suffering. You may have noticed this. You must have heard this from someone that, for example, their mother is diagnosed with cancer, and this just doesn't make sense to them. Why would a person as loving as my mother, who never harmed anyone or who never hurt anyone, get cancer? It doesn't make sense. Why should this happen? Now, science no longer cares about the why questions. It says, I can explain for you how cancer happened, how the cells of cancer spread, how cancer spread in her body. But asking why questions, why she got cancer, there's no reason behind it. Right? It didn't start like this. It started with Newton and Galilei, but they didn't say that there is no why behind what happens. They just said you don't need to talk about why, but gradually it reached this point that it said no, there is no why. It's all about the how. So it doesn't even make sense to ask, why do I die? Science will explain for you how you die. What happens exactly to every cell in your body. If the question of why was to tell us the final cause, the intention, well, a world that is the result of accidents doesn't have any intention. So in a way, they say asking why questions is like asking what is the color of jealousy. You can ask it, but it doesn't mean anything. So in a world that doesn't believe in a designer, in an intelligent designer, asking why do things happen is an absurd question. things don't have any reason, any final cause. There is no intention for them. So as soon as you leave why questions out, meaning is also left out of your life. While final cause is no longer believed in, our life will be emptied from meaning. Because meaning was saying, what is the intention for this happening? What is the intention of the person who created me? Well, no one created you. You're a result of a series of accidents. So there's no intention, and thus your life has no meaning. So this is why, after a while, when they noticed that it's very difficult to live this way, they said, okay, your life has no meaning, but you can create your own meaning. Be the meaning creator of your life. And this is something that you hear probably very often these days. I will make the meaning of my life. But what does it mean to make meaning for your life? How can one do that? Please recite the salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. In order to understand that, I will give you an example. If I tell a joke and I see that the person that I told the joke for starts crying, I am faced with something that does not make sense to me. Because my understanding says that when you tell a joke, people laugh, or if there are people in this community, they just look at you, but they shouldn't cry. Why is this person crying? This doesn't make sense to me. Now, in order to have and get a sense of what this means, someone who is there might say, well, in your joke, you talked about, for example, the love of father. This person recently lost their father, so they were reminded of their father, and that's why they're crying. So that person gives a context for what happens, and now it makes sense to me. I know the meaning of why that person cried. So in a way, we can say that meaning is a context, is a story that explains to you why certain thing happens. Let me give another example. If I raise my hand and do this, and ask you, what does this mean? What does this mean? Say this is victory, or 2, right? Why did he do that? He wanted to show the sign of victory. The intention that I had was to show you the sign of victory. But if I, for example, sneeze or someone bump into me and my hand just does this without my intention, although I know this is quite a difficult figure to happen by chance, but if it happens without any intention, then there is no context behind it. I didn't do it in order to show anything. There's no context, there's no story, so there's no meaning. It wouldn't mean anything. In the same way that if our life is a series of accidents, it wouldn't mean anything. There's no story there, right? But if it's the creation of an intelligent designer who had something in mind, who had an intention, then of course it would have meaning. So now we know that meaning is a question of why. Why questions. It's asking the final cause. And we also know that things that bring meaning to our life are stories, are context, are narrations that makes things make sense, right? Like the person that cried after the joke. As soon as I watched the story behind it, it made sense to me. Now we have these different areas in our life for which we have stories. So if I ask you, why did you get married? Those who are married, of course. You'll give me a story. If I say, why did you get married? It's a why question, and you already have the meaning for it. You'll say, well, we met in university, or I don't know, in certain place, this happened, that happened. I wanted to get married, I've been meaning to do it. So you'll give me a story, and it'll make sense to me. So your marriage has a meaning. And then I'll tell you, okay, why did you choose this field of work? You say, well, I've always been meaning to do this. I've always wanted to contribute to the society. Through medicine, I wanted to be a doctor, save lives, and this. So you know why you're doing it. You have a story. So that area of your life has a context, has meaning. But the problem we have is this, that if I say, okay, your life overall, not just marriage, not just your studies, everything together, why do you live? Then most of us, we struggle to give a story, to explain it. For these individual different chapters of our life, we have stories. Why I got married, why I'm doing this work. But if someone asks us, why are you living? What is the overall story of your life, of this person? We don't have a coherent narration, story, that would make sense of everything that we do. And that's why often we see that our life doesn't have a meaning. The question of meaning is the question of the narration of your life. So if we want to have meaning in our lives, and bear in mind that this is even for the one who doesn't have a religion, right? So far what we're saying is not, it doesn't require faith. This is even for a person who doesn't have religion. If anyone wants to have meaning in their life, all the different chapters of their life should have a coherent story. If our life was turned into a story and published as a book, and a person read it, they should be able to know, okay, the life of this person is all about this. This person, the reason this person lived is this. It shouldn't be scattered, separate chapters that don't have any relation to each other. So this is the first thing which is very important. If we want to have a meaningful life, we should sit down and think about this. That what am I all about? I know why I got married. I know why I'm doing this work, but why am I living? My overall life, what is that about? What am I trying to achieve through my whole life? Like if someone asks, what is the story of your life? What would I say? This is why they say to have a meaningful life, you have to take your life seriously. You have to look at it as a piece of art. You have to be creative. If you want to have meaning in your life, you have to be creative. The second thing is that you have to be the hero of your story. Often we let other people write our story. I've seen this so many times in university and it breaks my heart. I asked my friend, so why are you doing this field? I remember you used to like something else. He says, well, I found a grant for it. There was funding. Well, then you're not writing the story of your life. You didn't choose this because you wanted. No, because there was funding. So someone else wrote it. So in order to have a meaningful life, first of all the different chapters of our life, all the different chapters of the book of our life should be coherent. And secondly, we should be the one who's writing it. We should be the hero of the story. And when I say we should be the hero, it doesn't mean that we should do crazy things, right? It just means that we should be the one making the decisions. I was talking somewhere and I said this, and someone said, well, I wanted to study certain thing, certain field, and my father didn't allow me to, didn't want me to. And you're telling me that I should write the story of my life, so I should disobey my father? I'm saying no. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is deeper. If you want to be the writer of your story, you could still follow and obey your father. But the difference would be here that you say the reason I'm studying this field is not because my father forced me to, but because I respect my father, so I do what he does. See? You might end up doing the same thing, but you won't say that I am studying this field because my father forced me to. You say, I am studying this out of respect for him. So again, you become the hero. You end up doing the same thing, but when people ask you, you don't say because he forced me to. Because yes, he wanted this, but out of respect for him, I did this. I could have, you didn't have to, you could just leave the house. You're making this decision to obey him. So again, you become the hero. See, what happens in real life doesn't really change. But it's just the way you're writing the book. So you're owning this decision, right? But in real life, you didn't really have to. Like, he didn't put a gun over your head. You could have left the house. So the reason you stayed is because I realized that for my life, I needed to make this decision. So I made this decision. And some person might come to this conclusion that will actually no, I am not going to obey him in this. But this is very important, that you should be the one making decisions. Otherwise, this is why so many people are depressed. For example, they're at a work that they don't like. They feel like what they're doing is not their decision. So they're not the one writing the story of their life, and that's where they get depressed. So this is very important to realize, that no matter what the circumstance of your life is, if you find yourself saying that I am doing this because someone forced me, because of the situations, because of this, because of that, if your explanation doesn't start with I wanted, then your life doesn't have a meaning, at least in that area. And a life that is void of meaning will lead to emptiness, will lead to depression. So we have to be the heroes of our story, the one who's writing it. Please recite salawat. Now, normally we're so busy living life, we're so busy writing the story that we fail to take a moment and see what is it that we're writing. But in life comes these times that the pace of life is reduced. Maybe because of an injury you have to stay at home. Maybe you got a break from work and you're spending a few days at home. Something happens that you get some time for reflection. Because a busy life brings with it forgetfulness. But when life has a slow pace, we start to think, well, I'm living my life like this, but why? When you stop writing, because sometimes we're just busy adding chapters to our life. But once you slow down and you take a look at this book and say, oh my God, I'm doing all of these things, these hobbies, this work, marriage, but I never sat and think, why am I doing all of these? It just happened. One thing led to another. We went to uni and then work, and then, did I want to be this? Did I want to be this person? So we end up questioning everything. And this is why many people who look at their stories of their life and see that it didn't really become what they wanted it to, they become very disappointed with themselves. And the only way to avoid this disappointment is to be conscious of this as you're living your life. Remember two things. All chapters of our life should be sync, and second, we should be the one writing the story of our life. This is very important. Now you might be saying, okay, this is a way of having a meaningful life. I will be the hero. I will look at my life as a work of art. I will be creative. I will create a novel. But how can I bring religion into this equation? How can the meaning of my life be a religious meaning? This happens when the story, the narration that we have chosen with our life is in sync and does not contradict with the overall narration that religion sets for the universe and for human beings. So far we said our life has a story. Very good. How can this story, how can this meaning, how can this narration be a religious one if your story matches with the overall story that's religion pictured for human beings? What is this overall story? Everything that religion does is trying to explain this narration, this story. A very important element of it is that inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So this character that you are, this hero of your life, remember that this character came from an origin and is going back to that origin. So while you're writing the story of your life, remember that this hero, this character is going back to its origin. So by being conscious of the elements of this overall narration that religion paints for human beings, we can make our life, the meaning of our life, a religious one. The most important element of it, I said, is that to bear in mind that your character should live in a way that once it goes back to its origin, has what it needs at that level. So you would know that while you're writing the story of your life, you shouldn't write it in a way as if there's no tomorrow. There is a tomorrow. The overall narration tells you that there is a tomorrow. So once our narration becomes part of a greater narration, then we can say we have a religious life, a religious meaning for our life. Now there are so many other elements that I'll try to talk about them as much time as we have and see how should our story change. What things should we be mindful of when we're writing these different chapters? One of the things that we should be mindful of is that for a religious person, the meaning of their life is not something they made up. It's real. And this is perhaps one of the most important parts of a religious meaning. I said for a person who put God aside, who said the world doesn't have a designer, then there is no intention actually behind their life. If no one created us, we're a result of accident, then there's no reason for us to be. There's no intention. So whatever task we choose, it's something we've chosen, right? It's not like the universe called us at some point, like we had a call from nature, Javad, I want you to do this. No. The universe is indifferent to you and the meaning you choose for your life. It's a very dark picture. Like no matter whatever meaning you choose, I want to do this, I want to do that. When you die, the universe wouldn't care. But religion is different. Religion says, no, no, no. Your life has a meaning, has an intention. We created you for a reason. It's not that we're indifferent to you. No, no. In the Quran, there is this concept of the trust. Amana. It says we offered this amana to the skies and the earth and the mountains, and they all denied it. No one accepted it. They rejected it. إِنَّا عَرَزْنَا الْأَمَانَةَ عَلَى السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَالْجِبَالِ فَأَبَيْنَا أَنْ يَحْمِلْنَهَا. So there is this mission that the skies and the earth and the mountains rejected. And then we offered it to mankind. Mankind accepted it. So religion is telling you that I am not indifferent to your existence. No, I'm actually giving you a mission. So you should feel important. Your meaning was actually set for you. It's not like no one cares. No. It's real. So that's another element of a religious meaning to life. Another element of it is that وَلَا نُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. It says that your good actions will not go to waste. And this is very important. And I think no one understands this verse better than Barack Obama. Why? Imagine this person, well, let's not talk about, for example, the things that we don't disagree with him, which are a lot. But the good things that he did. For example, the healthcare system. Now let's imagine that as a child, he said, I will to create change in this world. I will study, I will become the president and create this amazing healthcare system and provide everyone, the disabled, the elderly, the ill, the poor, with a good healthcare. And he worked 8 years to make that happen, and then an orange phenomena ruins all of it. Imagine if the meaning that you chose for your life, you made it happen. Many of us, we don't get to see the task we chose for ourselves happen. Right? Many of us wanted to do great things and failed. But there's this person who wanted to do great things, managed to do it, and then it's ruined. So how would you feel? Like, and I said again, that this doesn't happen to everyone, that what they want to achieve gets achieved. No, it's very unlikely. There are so many broken dreams, so many failed promises. But then even for one person who achieves it, it's very easy to get destroyed and ruined. How would you feel? Like the book would be very nice up to the last page. So yes, he tried really hard, 40 years, 50 years, made everything possible, and then the next page said, but everything was ruined. Right? But religion says, no, your efforts won't go to waste. And this is very important. Now, how is it that it doesn't go to waste? That requires a long discussion. But at least it tells you this, it guarantees you this, that don't be disappointed. Your efforts made a difference, are not wasted. Continue, keep going. Another element of the religious meaning to life, now remember what we're talking about is that we said our life should have a coherent story that explains all the different chapters in relation with each other. We should be the hero, we should be the person who's writing this. And we said if this story wants to be a religious one, it has to go well with the narration that God wrote for human beings. One of that was that you have to bear in mind that you came from an origin and you're going back to that. Another one is that لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. You cannot claim credit for anything unless that for which you worked. This is very important. Many people are proud in their stories of things they inherited from other people, or things that are the result of their community or their culture or their country, nothing they worked for. They say, my story is a great one. But God tells you that your story would only be great if the good things in it are made by you. In my university, there are so many posh people. People who, there's a lot of them are nice, but then every now and then you get these interesting ones. They take being proud of wealth to a next level. Some of them, a few people. So it's not that I'm rich, you're poor. Sometimes the debate is this: for how many generations have you been rich? Honestly, this is something that I heard. It's like, we've been rich for 10 generations. How many generations have you been wealthy? Right? This person clearly in the story that he has written for himself, and he's quite proud of the story. But some of the beautiful things in it is not the result of his work. Religion tells you that all that matters is what you worked for. This could also mean that don't be upset if you're in a difficult position. Because you know, life is really a lottery. You know, there's this hadith from Imam Ali that in this world, nothing we have, we deserve. Not the problems, not the good things. Like how tall you are, how short you are, how talented you are, how hardworking you are, how caring you are. Even how caring you are. Part of it is up to you, but maybe 60-70% is just genetic disposition. I just did a research on how even being thankful, that again has a lot of genetic elements in it. Of course, part of it is within our hands, but a lot of it is not. So, if you're not religious, if you don't believe in anything after this, you could feel at loss. You could see that you could look at all these people who have better talents than you, better positions than you, better families than you, and you would, and there's really no way to understand that other than that, well, I'm just the unlucky one. I just lost at the lottery of life. There's so many ways, you know. It could be that your parents don't love you. It could be that you don't have any talent. It could be that you love to achieve something, but in your household, they don't allow you. They don't give you the opportunity. So many things. And then you look at someone else, and he says, yes, I made my business with a small loan of $1 million from my father. A small loan. So why would you not get jealous? Why would you not feel horrible? You totally lost the lottery, right? You were born into a family that didn't have anything. But it's religion that says none of these matter. At the end of the day, all of this will end, and for eternal life, all that remains with people is the amount of effort they made. Now, these are the things that a religious story, a religious meaning brings to our life. Another thing of this is that وَلَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. And you will not reach the highest levels unless you let go of things you love. It's telling you that, remember, in the book you're writing for your life, there's going to be some letting go, some serious ones. Don't get attached. So if you see that in the story I'm writing, in some of the chapters, I'm getting attached to certain things, try to quickly erase that and write it in another way. Or life will do that for you. Often life does it. We write the story forgetful of the bigger narration, and in our story we write attachments. We write attachments to positions, we write attachments to people, and if we don't erase them, sometimes life does it for us. And actually it's going to happen at one point or the other. If you write attachments, there would be a force that comes and erases it. But the best way is to do it yourself. As you're writing the story of your life, be mindful of this. And perhaps one of the most beautiful places to witness this is Ashura and Karbala. People who wrote the last chapter of their life with this verse. You will not reach the highest level until or unless you let go of that which you love. And what is most important than your life and your family? You will see that there are people who have understood this and who have put this into practice better than anyone can imagine. Tonight, let's talk about Habib ibn Madahir. The messenger of Imam Hussein reaches Habib, the house of Habib, and gives the letter of Imam to Habib. Ya Habib, this is what has happened. Will you come and join me? And what do you expect Habib to say? Of course he's going to join the grandson of the Prophet. His wife comes and says, what is this? What is this letter? Who is this from? He says, it's from Imam Hussein. It's from the grandson of the Prophet. He's asked me to join him. And the wife tells him, oh, I wish I could come with you. But the situation was that it was very difficult to get out of Kufa, so she couldn't. So Habib tells his servant to prepare my horse, and at night I will leave. I will leave to join my master. Now he goes and joins, and the night comes when Imam Hussein turns off the lights and says, anyone who wants to leave can go. But do you think these kind of people would go? Of course not. Habib gathers the companions, the Sahaba, and says, brothers, we should not let any of the Bani Hashim go to the battlefield as long as we are alive. We will only allow that to happen if the last one of us has got martyred. And he did that. He proved that. So the day of Ashura comes. Someone says, it's the time of the prayer. And Imam Hussein says, okay, tell them that we want to pray. A person from the army of Yazid insults, says, oh, your prayers will not be accepted. You want to pray? Now see the love Habib has for the Imam. Habib hears this and gets so offended. How dare you say this? You think your prayer will be accepted and the prayer of Imam Hussein, the grandson of Prophet, will not be accepted? He gets into fight with them. He gets into fight with them, does a great fight. And as he's fighting, he recites, أنا حبيب وأبي مظهر فارس هيجاء وحرب تسعر أنتم أعد عدة وأكثر ونحن أوفى منكم وأصبر. Yes, your numbers are more than us, but we have more loyalty. ونحن أعلى حجة وأظهر حقا وأتقى منكم وأعذر. We are the pious ones. You think your prayer will be accepted? So he goes and does a great battle. And of course at the end, they strike him. His body falls on the ground. And you know, Imam Hussein went to the body of perhaps 8 or 9 of the martyrs in Ashura. One of them was Habib ibn Madahir. Imam Hussein goes to his body, holds his head and says, I have lost the leader of my companions. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلِبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ.